So in my last couple of videos, it seems like, I'm promoting Christianity or the religious aspect of Christianity, and I'm not. I'm actually promoting Christian values. I'm actually promoting Christian values, and chief among Christian values is the value, the original value of the human being, not the fallen being. Do you understand that God designed the human being? Satan did not design the human being. Satan designed hacks to hack into the human being and thwart original human growth and to actually leave us in a perpetual state of distraction away from our original mandate. The actual human being is generally not corrupted. It is sort of like he put in a fake operating system, okay? Or, imagine like a hacker hijacking your entire system so that the hacker is able to use your system and you're unable to use your computer for its original purposes. Same deal. So when I'm talking about Christianity, I'm not talking about, Christian religion as a value. Religions are just training systems, okay, to get you, mind-body unity, to train you to overcome more childish emotions. But it is not the purpose of creation. Religion is supposed to get you, if sin meant, missing the mark, religion trains you to get a little bit closer to the mark. So I'm not promoting a religion, but I am promoting, when I say Christianity, that we confess the original value of human beings is related to God's thinking about his design for the human being. Okay, it's not related to our thinking and what we had come to know human beings to be, these frustrating entities or frustrating neighbors or people who are out to lunch disconnected from one another. I'm more into promoting what's called universally shared values, okay? Freedom, peace, unity, and happiness. Freedom, peace, unity, and happiness. And I believe that Christianity is supposed to be there to usher in an era of freedom, peace, unity, and happiness. I believe the current Christianity is only an interim state for mankind. It is a necessary state, because in order to generate the world of freedom, peace, unity, and happiness, or what you would call heaven on earth, you need to actually have your identity changed from one that is connected to the hacker and the hacker's mentality and the hacker's protocols. You must be born again. And the only religion that even speaks about the necessity of a rebirth or a realignment of one's identity from the sin matrix identification to the original identification is Christianity. So we need a Christian discussion. We need a Christian discussion. Christianity itself is not a complete pathway to the ideal world. That's why Jesus even said he had to come back. Why do you have to come back? Because when he came, we weren't ready. And the same is going to apply no matter what time you think Christ might come. If we're not ready, if we're going to reject him, okay, if we're going to not play our part, the end times come when people are actually ready. Do you ever think about that? The end times come when there's a minimum contingent of people who are ready. And let me tell you something. If you don't examine why people were not ready the last time, you're nowhere near understanding readiness this time, okay? Or at his second coming, you don't understand readiness. Readiness can be made by studying the past. Some of the intervening things. What caused him to fail last time? Remember when they could have voted for Jesus or Barabbas? Okay, well, what was that scene about? That scene was about social pressure. You people, if you just think you're going to, get to heaven and ride a wave of social will, to get out of the fallen world, you have to resist the world. You have to resist the social pressure of the world. We can get to a heavenly peer pressure world, but we have to defeat or separate from the old social peer pressure world, the one that is how can I say, led by Pharisees. This is what we should learn from the last time. How are you going to be like letting your pastor, your rabbi, or whoever, how are you going to outsource your intellect to them? Because who's to say they're not going to have you vote for Barabbas the next time? I mean, like, if you're not learning lessons from the last time, okay, then how is there preparation for the next time? So, there are lessons to be had within the Christian story, but Christianity is not the destination. It's not the destination. It is a discussion that's necessary because people have fallen identity. You look at the whole Charlie Kirk phenomenon. People, when they looked at the grotesque nature of him being murdered, and then they breathe in his clarity, they breathe in his, his steadfast focus on the truth, they say, well, these aren't the worst qualities. They may be irritating, as Carl Jung would say, to your shadow. That's why a lot of people hated him. And they said that he was of hate because liberals are so stupid. The pain that they feel is the embarrassment of their bad behavior or unprincipled behavior. Carl Jung would call that their shadow, right? So what happens is Charlie Kirk would basically prove that there's some reason for them to fight their shadow. So they're embarrassed that they're not fighting their shadow, and it causes them discomfort. It's like the pain of getting a bad grade. It's not the teacher hating you. It's the pain that comes from not understanding something or not being good at something. It's this ease, the lack of inner peace that you feel when you have to go back to the drawing board. That is an unavoidable discomfort. Okay, it's part of growing. I always used to tell my students, life is hard. Take the hardship as a good thing. It's necessary, right? Whenever you grow, whenever you study, okay, you're refraining from going outside and playing. You're refraining from, video games. You're refraining from stuff, and that's uncomfortable for a good reason. Life is hard. So when Charlie says, you guys are missing the mark in this way and that way, and you're failing to understand this racial issue and that, right? And it means you have to go back to the drawing board. That's uncomfortable. It's unnecessary hardship. So the messed up thing about liberals is that they conflate pain with cruelty, okay? So if life has hardships and you conflate pain with cruelty, you're going to be seeing boogeymen everywhere. And that's why people say that liberalism is a mental disorder. But where did the disease or the misalignment happen? It happened because nobody raised you to acclimate to hardship. People pampered you, or the childish idea that you could escape hardship wasn't driven out of you or talked out of you, and you grew up with a childish desire to have no hardship. Okay, that is doing more to fuck up your life as a liberal than anybody outside of you. Then liberals actually perpetuate more liberalism in the next generation by promoting the idea of using sex the way they use drugs. And so that means you have accident babies, you have unseasoned parents raising those kids, parents who should be teaching them to acclimate a certain amount of hardship in life, acclimate to a certain level of hardship, but they're unable to teach those kids that. So what you have is a growing, whiny, entitled group of people who see the rest of society with their shadow. They see the rest of society the way Carl Jung's shadow sees society. In other words, they feel that they could be doing better, but they didn't want to do better because they were trying to avoid hardship. But then when they listen to the more successful side of society who embraced hardship, the hardship that they feel at that moment is to be judged or compared and left wanting, feeling like I'm inadequate. And that discomfort is not coming because of cruelty. That discomfort is coming because nobody told you that it was possible. It's not possible to be successful and avoid hardship. Now I'm coming back to the Christian part. Human beings should soar, but it's difficult to do that without parents acclimating their children to the realities of life. Even in a perfect world, if there was no fall, there still would be hardships. Young people would still have to learn to deal with frustrations, hardship, going back to the drawing board. People have a very childish concept of the perfect world. The perfect world would be exhilarating because as we fought against hardships, we would know soaring success, what it feels like to overcome. Okay, and that's a part of life. Sin and hardship are not the same thing, and hardship and cruelty, you can't conflate them. God is not cruel that He gave us hardship. God gave us the ability through hardship to overcome and enjoy the story of our own inequalities, overcoming this hardship or that hardship. Learning to climb a tree, learning to wrestle a beast, learning chemistry, learning rocketry, learning whatever. All those things entail hardships, but the world would be more like a playground as we learn to overcome things. And in the moment of joy, when we overcome things, what is it, Starship 11 a couple of days ago? Did you see all those employees like hollering and elated because, it was a successful mission? Okay, that was won through hardship. Hardship is not an enemy. It is not even a sign of an enemy. Hardship or the pain of hardship should not be automatically attributed to someone's cruelty. However, if you don't have parents, which is your birthright to be raised by your own parents who were risen to adult success and victory, they cannot pass on to you the right way of thinking about hardship. If you have childish parents, then how are you going to overcome?